Ladies and gentlemen, good morning if you're located in the Americas, good afternoon if you're in Europe, or good evening if you're located elsewhere.
Bonjour Paris.
Bonjour Evry.
Et bonjour à tous ceux qui nous écoutent à Bordeaux, au Mureau, à Toulouse, à Vélizy et à Vernon.
We're using several satellites to link up Kourou with Europe and America. The European ECS, the French Telecom, the international Intelsat are relaying this coverage. And by the way, you may remember that ECS and Telecom were orbited by Ariane as well. They were orbited, of course, by earlier models, Ariane 1, 2, or 3. And now they're used to cover the event that marks the aggrandizement of the family, the first flight of Ariane 4. This is an artist's view of the orbit onto which Meteosat is going to be placed by the launch vehicle. As you see, it's the geostationary transfer orbit with a 220 kilometer perigee and about 36,300 kilometer apogee. From that orbit, Meteosat will give itself an impulse at apogee that will circularize the orbit, take the plane to 0 degrees inclination onto the geostationary orbit. In this Ariane launch, of course, our 3 spacecraft, as I mentioned before, are not all going to the geostationary orbit. 2 of them are. That's Meteosat and Pan American Satellite 1. And the third one, AMSAT 3C, is going to move itself from the geostationary transfer orbit to an elliptical orbit with about 1,500 kilometer perigee. Here are now some views of the launch vehicle preparation campaign in the Kourou facilities. Here are the first stage. The first stage has been substantially modified from the Ariane 3 first stage. It's much bigger. It holds 220 metric tons of propellants versus 140 for Ariane 1, 2, 3. Also, its structure has been substantially reinforced to account for the higher massive propellants, of course, and for the adjunction of strap-on boosters, both liquid and solids. This is the second stage, which you can see in integration with its single Viking engine. This one is not too different from the Ariane 1 through 3 second stages, except for, again, structural reinforcements. But the massive propellants is basically the same at 34 metric tons. You can see it fitted here. This is all taking place in the assembly dock in the preparation area of the second launch by the LA-2. Here's the third stage, our cryogenic third stage. Also basically the same as for previous versions of Ariane. 10 tons of cryogenic propellants. That's what it holds in its cryogenic tanks. A good view here of the assembly hall. And here's a complete Ariane 4. Not complete though. This is, as I said, in the preparation area where the solid strap-on boosters cannot be assembled for safety reasons. Therefore, when the launch vehicle with its 3 stages and liquid propellant boosters and vehicle equipment bay is ready, it's rolled out from the preparation area on its table. It has about 1 kilometer to go to move from the preparation area to the launch pad. A few views of the mating of the payload onto the vehicle. Here's Pan American Satellite 1 being fitted into the lower part of the Spelda, the dual launch structure. Here, the upper part of the payload composite, which is Meteosat on top, AMSAT, which is inside the white structure, you can't see it, and the fairing fitted onto the upper part of the Spelda. And this whole thing, you can see Meteosat from underneath. The whole thing is going to be fitted onto the lower part of the Spelda with Pan American Satellite 1 inside it. You can see here this final assembly of the payload composite in the payload preparation facility at Kourou. Now this whole thing, this whole upper part with the spacecraft inside and the fairings around it, spelled-on fairings around it, is taken to the launch pad and hoisted onto the vehicle. That's where it was mated. Here's a view now of the blockhouse on launch pad number 2 on the LA-2. So it's called CDL-2 after its French acronym. This is where the launch vehicle itself and all its ancillary systems are controlled. It's therefore, as you understand, a very important milestone. It's also when the launch vehicle gets out of its hold time with air, liquid hydrogen tank of the third stage now flight pressurized. Same thing is going to happen to the liquid oxygen tank of the third stage, scheduled at the latest minus 1 minute, 20 seconds. Things are in progress in the liquid oxygen tank. Vehicle armed.
À tous le DDO, décompte final.
Attention pour décompte
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, feu.
Ignition.
Allumage.
Liftoff.
Décalage.
All boosters on. All pressures normal.
Toute pression normale.
Roll maneuver.
Manœuvre en roulis.
Solids to burn about 30 seconds. Pressure
Pression et pilotage normal.
H0, the 6 first-stage Viking engines are ignited, providing a thrust of 4,050 kilonewtons. H0 plus 3.5 seconds. The 2 solid propellant boosters are ignited for an additional 1,300 kilonewtons thrust. In all, 5,350 kilonewtons of thrust moving Ariane into space. "66 seconds later, at an altitude of 7.5 kilometers, the solid boosters have done their job and they separate from the launcher and fall back to Earth. At H0 plus 2 minutes 26 seconds, the liquid boosters are jettisoned. After 3 minutes 34 seconds, the first stage engines shut down, the first and second stages separate, and the second stage engine is ignited. This engine operates for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. At 110 kilometers altitude, the fairing is jettisoned. H0 plus 5 minutes 44 seconds, separation of the second and third stages, and ignition of the third stage, which will operate for over 12 minutes. H0 plus 17 minutes 50 seconds, third stage shuts down. The third stage plus payload compass is then oriented by rotation and the third stage's attitude and roll control system. Satellites spin up, separation of upper satellite. De-spin and reorientation. Separation of upper part of Spelder. Reorientation for the second satellite. Separation of the lower satellite.
Aujourd'hui, adresser mes félicitations toutes
I would like
particulières
today, therefore,
à
to give
Rogignel,
my
le directeur
special
des
congratulations to
lanceurs
Mr. Vignel, Director of Launch Vehicles
à Évry,
at Évry, the launch vehicle
à Raymond
director,
Henry,
to Raymond
responsable
Henry,
du programme Mariage spatiale
who's
européenne,
responsible for the Ariane program at the European Space Agency.
et à André Van Gaver, le
and
chef
to
de
André
projet
Van
Ariane.
Gaver, who's the Ariane 4 project manager,